Hi guys, welcome back to We Fight Fat. I'm Dan Dos Santos, and in this video today I want to talk about mixing martial arts with hypertrophy. Now, first I'm going to start with the disclaimer. I don't think purely hypertrophy type training is optimal for those who want to compete in fight sports competitively. If your main focus is to fight competitively, I believe that strength and conditioning definitely has a place, but a training program tailored around things like power, endurance, and explosiveness makes more sense to me than a training plan focusing primarily on hypertrophy. So that said, this video today is not for that person. It's not for a competitive fighter. It's not even for a competitive bodybuilder. It's for the average Joe like myself who wants to train both. You have a particular body goal, you want certain things to be maybe bigger on your body, maybe you want them to be smaller, but you want them to have a particular shape, size and look, but also in parallel to that, you want to get better at a particular sport. And in this case, my sport is Muay Thai, and I have an interest of both things, and I want to train for both things. So that is who this video is for. Someone who's in the middle, someone who trains for martial arts for fun, but also trains hypertrophy type training to reach certain body goals and also for fun. So some principles from the outset. I believe that you should train both methodologies at least twice a week. Why? One, for hypertrophy training, it gives your muscles a chance to benefit from protein synthesis twice a week, which gives them more of a chance to grow throughout the week. And for martial arts, for Muay Thai, I believe training twice just makes so much more sense than training just once. Think about over the course of a year, you're doubling the amount of time you're doing your punching, your kicking. Over the course of a year, if you train once, you're going to be training about 50 times in a year, and you're going to double that to about 100 times a year if you're training at least twice. So it just makes sense to me. Now, I'm just reading off some notes here, so bear with me guys, because I feel like I've got a lot of important points here. If your training frequency, if you can only train 1 to 3 times a week. Now, if you're training once a week, obviously you can't train everything twice a week, which goes against my first principle I outlined. But let's just give a certain person the benefit of the doubt that they don't have the time, literally they only have 1 day a week where they can dedicate to training. Then it makes sense to train both disciplines on that day. Obviously, the only other question you've got to answer is what's more of a priority, and that will be based on your goals. So your goals are going to dictate what comes first, how much time you spend on each discipline. But if you're training 1 day a week, you really haven't got much leeway. It's just whatever comes first. If you're training 2 to 3 times a week, I would again train both disciplines on each day, but depending again on your goals, you would put whichever training methodology makes sense first. You can blend the two a little bit where one still gets a primary focus but the other still gets its chance to go first. So if you're training 3 days a week, you can train 2 days with one first, and then the other day you train the other thing, you alternate and the other things comes first. Some things to bear in mind. If you're training Muay Thai first, your martial arts training first, and you're training your weights after, you will probably be weaker in your lifts and you won't have as much energy. So you'll feel spent, you've only got so much energy in your particular workout, and if you've already spent some of that energy on your fight training, you will then have only so much left to lift a certain amount of weight, and I think that weight will definitely be less than what you would be lifting if that weight training came first. If you're training your weight training first, you will be stronger, you'll be able to lift more, but I believe it's going to make you more stiff for your particular fight training. Now, obviously you can do things like additional stretching and stuff like that to balance this, to counteract this, But I've just found in my experience, even with additional stretching, that I feel so much more limber if I'm just doing Muay Thai first, and I feel so much stronger if I'm doing weight training first. So those are some things to consider if you're training only 1 to 3 days a week. If you're training 4 days a week or more, I believe you should give each discipline its own day whilst making sure you train each discipline twice a week. What does that look like? So for 4 days a week, you would do 2 full body hypertrophy sessions focusing primarily on compound lifts, and then you do 2 days for your particular sport. So for me, obviously it's Muay Thai. I do 2 Muay Thai days, 2 hypertrophy full body days. Beyond that, you can start adding on more days for the thing that you're prioritizing. So if you're training 5 days a week, you can spend an extra day training Muay Thai if it's your priority, or spend an extra day training hypertrophy if it's your priority. 6 days, you can take a more balanced approach. You just get more training frequency, but you can also obviously prioritize. If you've got more days to train, great. You can just prioritize and be more smart about how you break up things. So I'll give you an example. For me, I train 6 days a week. At the moment, my focus is hypertrophy. So the split I'm running is an upper-lower Muay Thai split. That allows me to hit everything at least twice a week, but it gives me a lot more additional time to spend doing hypertrophy training and building up certain muscles I want to get bigger. So it's broken up like this. I do upper-lower Muay Thai, and that goes something like, on the first day, I do upper with a push focus. Second day, I do lower with a quad focus. Then I do Muay Thai training. Then I go back to upper body and do a pull focus, lower body after that with a hamstring focus, and then I finish on a Muay Thai training day. And then I take 1 day off a week where I don't really do any hard training. I might go for a walk, I might do some stretching, but that's about it. So that gives you some principles that I think you should follow. It gives you some general guidelines and considerations for when you've got a certain amount of days to train and you've got certain priorities from your goals to work out what you want to train when. But I'm going to finish this video on a few key points just from what we've already discussed. If you can, train twice a week or more. Make sure you're giving both disciplines twice a week for training. The second thing is your goals. Make sure you outline your goals. What are the things you want out of your training? If it's generally just to get better, I would take a balanced approach for the time being. And then I think most people over time get some things where, well, this could be better or that could be better. And so you tailor some goals around what you'd like to be better. Then when the next training block comes along, you tailor that training block around your goals whilst keeping those principles I've already outlined. I'll also say one final thing. In the UK, we're still on lockdown, so my fight training is primarily shadow boxing, skipping, skill work, stretching, stuff like that. When my MMA gym opens back up, I'm going to look at doing a 3-day weights, 3-day Muay Thai split. Now, this last point I'm not going to go massively into, but it's something that I might look at into another video if you guys are interested, which is fatigue management. This is a massive component of mixing different styles of training and just any training. You need to make sure you're managing your fatigue versus your stimulus. So by stimulus, I mean how hard is the training? Is it as hard as last week or harder? Are you overloading over time? Are you getting better? Versus how hard is it on your body? Can you manage all of that fatigue? Are you close to overtraining? Obviously you need to train first before you can overtrain, but if you're someone like me who does like to train around 5 to 7 days a week, then you're training a lot throughout the week. You need to be smart about how you break up those training days, what you train when, giving yourself enough recovery for those particular things. And so I've calculated all of that with this split that I'm following for myself. But like I said, when gyms reopen, I might look at doing a 3-day split both ways. But when it comes to that, I need to make sure I'm having enough rest, and I'm not entirely sure at this point that I might do. I might even look at doing a weights, Muay Thai, rest, weights, Muay Thai, rest, and just repeat that over time. And I think within any given 7 days, each thing will still be trained 3 times if you work it out. I have looked at it, but I need to look back at it. I'll keep you guys updated on that, but at least for the next 6 weeks, probably even the next 12 weeks, I'll be following this upper-lower Muay Thai split. Those are the principles and guidelines for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it gives you some insight and some help on how you can start balancing these types of training for yourselves. And you don't have to pick one or the other, guys. I hope this is at least indication that if you're the average Joe, if you're doing these things for fun, but you have some goals that you're trying to hit, you can do both. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for more content from We Fight Fat. Thank you, guys.